Recording in three, two, and one. Welcome to episode 202 of Nerdery Murdery.
Big 202. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your Murdery. Welcome to another week of the highs and lows, the ups and downs, the good and the bad, and the nerd and the murd. Um, so as an IT person, this kind of stuff just tickles me. So October 2025, the thick client version of Office is no longer supported. It's all O365.
Yep.
And people are going to have to go. Same thing if you have Windows 10. Your
Mhm.
Windows 10 has stopped supported in Windows in October 2025. So you better get it changed over to Win 11 now.
Upgraded
Uh,
now.
for those of you IT people that don't understand that, what that means when Microsoft no longer supports it, that means that security updates are no longer provided. The program will still work, but you
Hmm.
won't be getting security updates, and you're vulnerable at that point.
Hmm.
But the thing about O365 that I think is so funny, we have people that are screaming, I need the thick client version, the install version. I can't work just on the web version. The web version works exactly the same as the thick client does. There's no difference.
No,
None. Not like
no.
the previous versions of Outlook Web Access that there was a difference between the client
Yeah,
and the web. There is no difference on this.
they're exactly the same.
there's a
There
lot of
is.
there's a lot of new nuances in it, and you've got to
Yeah.
things are found in different places, but they
Hmm.
operate the exact same.
And
Um,
and a little piece of information for everybody listening out there who does not understand. If you're keeping 50,000 emails going back 10 years, you are costing your company and yourself money.
yeah, very true. Very, very true.
You are
Yeah.
costing money because you have to pay for the space.
Well, yeah,
You
Outlook should not be used as storage.
No, that's what storage folders are for. If you got
Right.
something you need to store, save it to a storage folder.
Right. And I guarantee that email that you're saving from 10 years ago, you probably don't need it anymore.
You don't need to you don't need to save an email longer than 3 weeks. Plain and simple. Don't save any emails. If it's got something in it you need to keep, you copy that, put it into a long-term storage folder.
Right, exactly.
Plain and simple. If
Exactly.
you can, if it's an email you need, copy the email, put that in the storage folder. It's
Yeah.
perfectly easy to do. You
Yeah.
copy paste.
The other thing working in technology, be
Sorry,
and I
let me get
no,
off the
that's fine.
soapbox for a second. It's okay.
That's fine. And I love this because season seven is now out of Black Mirror. I love that series. I
Black
love
Mirror's pretty
that
cool.
series. Seven has been really good. I've got two episodes to go. I'm
I haven't even cracked it open yet.
oh, it's so good. It's you'll love it. The very first episode has Roy from the IT crowd.
I
Uh,
love him.
yes, he's very good in this too. But yeah, I've mentioned Black Mirror before. If you haven't dived into Black Mirror, you should. Just understand there are points of Black Mirror that are going to terrify you because of
And
because
gross you out.
because it's all of the Black Mirror is your phone. That's what it
Hmm.
is. Your phone, your monitor, the things you're looking at, and it's like the Twilight Zone, only it's the dark side of
Yeah.
technology, where we're going, possibilities of where we're going. There's a lot of themes through Black Mirror that carry on throughout. One of those is um, the vast fear that we have that the bees are becoming extinct.
Hmm.
That's bad. That's really,
Hmm.
really bad. And
Oh yeah.
they touch on this several times in the Black Mirror universe. San Junipero comes into play quite a bit, and especially in this season. They all kind of tie in. Um, the creator of Black Mirror is brilliant, and this season has been particularly good so far. Um, Go watch Black Mirror if you haven't.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do a thing on Black Mirror at some point.
Yeah.
Um,
We
but
got
go watch it.
225 coming up. You want to do Black Mirror?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't decided on 225 yet.
Okay.
I have a few ideas in my head.
I've written 225.
Okay. I have not. As I've said before, I can only keep about three episodes going at one time because my shit's too dark. I can't keep going and going with that. I can't store that kind of stuff in my head.
No, don't.
I don't.
Don't.
I don't. Um, So yeah, so that's all I had. You got anything for us? You want to step over to the nerdy side of the house?
No, I'm kind of want to kind of dive into this because we're talking about the Trek,
Step on
the Star Trek,
the Star Trek.
or as my mom used to say it, the Star Trek.
Yeah.
Today we're going to talk about Star Trek: Strange New Worlds.
Cool.
Is an American science fiction television series created by Akiva Goldsmith, Alex Kurtzman, and Jenny Lumet for the streaming service Paramount Plus. It is the 11th Star Trek series and debuted in 2022 as part of Kurtzman's expanded Star Trek universe. It is a spin-off of Discovery. It follows Captain Christopher Pike and the crew of the Starship Enterprise in the 23rd century as they explore new worlds and carry out missions throughout the galaxy during the decade before Star Trek the original series. Anson Mount, Ethan Peck, and Rebecca Romaine respectively star as Pike, Spock, and Number One, or Una Chen Riley.
Mhm.
All characters from the original series. They were cast in the roles in 2019 for the second season of Discovery, and after positive fan response, Kurtzman expressed interest in bringing them back for a spinoff. Development began by March 2020, and the series was officially ordered in May. The lead cast, title, and creative team were confirmed by Goldsmith and Henry Alonso Myers as showrunners. Jess Bush, Christina Chong, Celia Rose Gooding, Melissa Navia, Babs Olasun Mokun, Bruce Horak, and Martin Quinn also star. Some of those actors play younger versions of original series characters. The series is produced by CBS Studios in association with Secret Hideout, Weed Road Pictures, HMRX Productions, and Roddenberry Entertainment. Filming takes place at CBS Stages Canada in Mississauga, Ontario. The showrunners choose to return to the episodic storytelling of the original series rather than Discovery's more serialized approach. So, the original concept for Star Trek back in 1966 was Captain Christopher Pike, his second in command, who was a woman, um, who was known as Number One. You weren't going to get her name until further on in the series. She's just referred to as Number One. A charismatic doctor who got changed over time, and the um, the science officer who is an alien. Um, when that was shown to people at Desilu Productions, they were like, okay, we get it. We're going to go ahead and greenlit it because the head of the studio, Lucille Ball, said she wanted it. However, they were like, we don't think Middle America is going to believe a woman in second command. So you're going to have to get rid of her and the alien. And Roddenberry was like, look, I want to use her. I will make her the nurse, but I want to keep the alien and I'll make him the science officer and the second in command. And that is the Star Trek that we know. They originally aired a pilot with the original idea, which sat on a shelf for years. When they released Next Generation, before they released it, like on the very first night the Next Generation premiered, right before they showed it, they showed the original The Cage pilot, which is the first time any of us had ever seen it because it had never been shown outside of um, the Desilu production offices. They did take pieces of it and use it in episodes in Star Trek later on, but you never got the full story. You got part of the story because they had the footage. They just used it. They used clips of it in an episode with Spock in the first season. But at that point, they retconned it as it was 10 years ago that Spock served with Pike before Kirk took over. But that original idea was there. We got to see it in 1987. And since then, it's when they released the series. And if you go on Paramount right now, the first episode is The Cage. You can watch it. It's great. This series expounds on that idea. It is 10 years before Captain Kirk becomes the captain of the Enterprise. Captain Kirk shows up in this series several times. And I love the actor who plays him because he plays him like William Shatner, but a younger William Shatner. Like he's almost the captain of the Enterprise, but not quite. And I love the kid that they got to play it. His older brother, who shows up in the original series, Sam, is on board the Enterprise as a science officer. Um, that's how come Spock knows who he is later on because he served with him. And when Kirk comes aboard, Chris Pike basically asks Sam about his kid brother because Pike and Sam are good friends. But Sam is totally different from Jim Kirk. They're like polar opposites. Um, but they're still loving brothers, you know. Again, I think the show's great. In the last season, the second season, at the very end, they introduced Scotty, who is now in the third season. And at the time of this recording, the third season is out, and we're getting episodes now. Uhura is on the in the cast. She starts out as a she's not even an ensign yet. She's like a cadet. Uh, because a cadet gets to serve aboard a Starship Enterprise. The pilot they have for this series is amazing. I love her a lot. I love the pilot. She's one of my favorites. Nurse Chapel is part of it. The Doctor um, actually shows up later on in Star Trek as he was off doing something else and he came back to help McCoy with a certain problem. Mbanga. Um, but it's amazing, and it takes place like right after the Klingon War because in Discovery also takes place at the same time. They just had a war with the Klingons in the first season, um, and it was bloody and brutal, and they're all kind of suffering PTSD. Um, they've got a descendant of Khan Noonien Soong who is not genetically altered, but she hates genetically altered people. She settled on a planet that was taken over by the Gorn when she was a child. Um, she's a security officer. Oh my God, is she good? Um, so there's all kinds of stuff going on in this show. It premiered on Paramount Plus on May 5th, 2022, for its 10 episode first season. A second season was released from June to August of 2023, and a third season is out now, and a fourth season has already been ordered. The series is estimated to have high viewership and audience demand. It receives positive reviews for its episodic storytelling and cast, and several accolades, including 2 Primetime Creative Arts Emmy Awards and nominations for sound editing. If again follows Christopher Pike, played by Anson Mount, and the crew of the starship USS Enterprise NCC 1701 in the 23rd century as they explore those strange new worlds. It features the following narration from Mount during the opening credits, very similar to the original series and Star Trek: The Next Generation, and it is. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. When Alex Kurtzman, the co-creator and executive producer of Star Trek Discovery, asked Akiva Goldsmith to join the series as a supporting producer, Goldsmith believed, based on internet rumors, that it was a prequel to Star Trek: The Original Series. Then it would follow the USS Enterprise NCC 1701 under the command of Christopher Pike. He was disappointed to find out that that was not the case. And with his encouragement, the Enterprise was introduced in the first season finale. Then co-showrunner Aaron Herbert wanted to explore Pike, feeling that he had not been seen much in Star Trek, but was less interested in exploring the Enterprise crew member Spock due to his many appearances throughout the franchise. He was also reluctant to have an actor other than Leonard Nimoy or Zachary Quinto portray the character. However, Spock was confirmed to be included in the second season, and in April of 2018, Anson Mount was cast as Pike, and he revealed in July that Rebecca Romijn, who portrayed original series character number 1, or Una Chent Riley. Rebecca Romijn darkened her hair in the exact same manner that Majel Barrett did for the original series. Um, and what's amazing is, to me, I think Rebecca Romaine looks a lot like Majel Barrett did in The Cage. If you go back and
Agreed.
compare the two, yeah, and I never saw that before. You know what I mean? And she's not using like prosthetic makeup or anything. It's
No.
it's her face, but the comparative, the comparison between the two is amazing. Same with Anson Mount. Never thought he looked like the actor Jeffrey Hunter
Oh,
until
I
they start.
do.
Yeah, he looks a lot like him. The only difference is his hair is a little spikier
Yeah.
than and everybody makes fun of that, but he looks cool. And that's the thing. Pike is cool, whereas
So,
Kirk really isn't.
no.
I mean, he can be, but Kirk is book stacks.
So uh, the 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 brought about. I'm not getting my words right here. The bringing of Pike as a bigger character in the Star Trek universe
Mm-hmm.
started with the reboot,
Yes.
and we got a cool Captain Pike,
Yeah.
one that's just
Bruce Greenwood.
yeah, Bruce Greenwood just played a great Pike, and Anson Mount continues that.
Yeah. I loved Greenwood's portrayal.
Yes,
My my only note is that he did not look as much like Jeffrey Hunter as Anson Mount does.
but
Bruce
that's
Greenwood
okay.
couldn't do anything about that.
But that's
Yeah.
okay. They don't have to, as long as we've got the character and the actor portrays
Yeah.
the character well, which Bruce Greenwood did, and
Oh
Anson
yes, he
Mount
did.
does as well. I
Yes.
love Jess Bush in here as Nurse Christine Chapel. I
Jess
love her
Bush is
in this
so
role.
good as Chapel.
Yeah,
Um, I love Uhura. I like that
yeah.
act, but she is not playing tough, no nonsense, seen
No,
it, done it Uhura because she's young.
she's very green.
Yeah. Oh, so green. She's just real good with languages. But I love the way she's just she's ticking all the boxes, you know. And I love her in that role. I love Ethan Peck as Spock. I don't have any notes. I, Ethan Peck as Spock is is exploring his human side. You know what
Hmm.
I mean?
Hmm.
Whereas Leonard Nimoy's Spock later on is exploring his Vulcan side. But they are two sides of the same coin. And I can see where, and at some point I think they're going to show that turning point in this series. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
think we're going to see it where he's like, I'm not human. I'm a Vulcan. It's going to happen to him. And I'm kind of, I want to see that because I love it. I love everything about the series. Every episode I've seen has been a banger.
Yeah, and I've only seen through 2 seasons of it,
I think they just dropped the third season, or maybe we just got an episode.
maybe.
Yeah, but it's mighty good. Everybody in it is good. The writing's good. The special effects are really good. I wish it looked a little. I wish the set looked a little more like the original Enterprise. You know what I mean? I um as a design choice, it still looks a little too polished.
Right, right. Which is the problem we've had with all of the episodes that have come out that go in the past. They're all more technologically advanced and polished than the original Enterprise.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. But it looks good. I like how they
Hmm.
updated the Gorn. I like how they updated. Did they show the Tholians? No, they just show the Tholian ships.
I don't
Um.
remember.
Just how they're dealing with exploration, how they're dealing
Hmm.
with getting
Hmm.
out there, and you know,
Right.
it's it's brilliant. Um, It, Ethan Peck was real positive about it. He really, really likes playing Spock. He's really enjoying it. The fans seem to like him as well. They did put them in a short trek. Um, they gave it a short trek, and then Kurtzman and Goldsmith said they had active discussions regarding a spinoff series, and he'd been tossing ideas back and forth. Uh, but Goldsman had moved from producing Discovery to co-show running Picard. Kurtzman said he would prefer for the potential spinoff to be an ongoing series rather than a miniseries, and said it could explore the 7 years between Discovery's second season and the accident that seriously injured Pike in the original series. Kurtzman soon stated that two unannounced Star Trek series were in development for CBS All Access, and a spinoff was reported to be one of them in March. CBS All Access officially ordered Star Trek Strange New Worlds series in May of 2020, with again Mount, Romaine, and Peck confirmed reprising their roles. But they added some extra producers and writers because they were still doing Picard. Right now, this is the only active show they got running.
Mm-hmm.
They've got some other ones coming out. But what's great is they sat down everybody in the writers' room and everybody in the production suites, and all of the producers are actually writers as well, which makes me happy. Well, except for Rod Roddenberry. But Rod Roddenberry is there to keep his father's ideas alive. That is his main contribution. His father and his mother, because Majel Barrett was his mother.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the story of Rod Roddenberry, how he hated Star Trek because he felt like it took his dad away from him. And his mom sometimes they'd be gone and just like what they're all filming another movie. But as he got older, he started going to conventions after his father passed away, and discovered how it affected it and how people love it, and how it inspired him and how it saved people, literally saved people. So he started Roddenberry Productions with his mom. And a lot of his father's notes, which he doesn't give to the public, but he does share with the writers and the producers. So that's why they make him a producer in a lot of this, because his stance in those meetings is to make sure that his father's legacy is protected, and I am perfectly okay. That should be his role. And honestly, I don't think he should get into discussions of story arcs and writings and stuff like that. Just overall, and make sure that because the Federation is paradise. Earth is paradise. We're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep that idea going. That's what he does. But yeah, all of these people are sitting down in these writers' rooms discussing these things, and all of them have good ideas. But they all sat down and watched The Cage together. Pause it, talk about it, make notes. So that thread runs through this series. It's like, oh, we can add. We've lost an engineer, which was sad because I loved Hemet, who was an Anar, which is a type of oh my god, the blue people with the antenna.
Orion.
No, not Orion.
Wasn't it Orion? Oh
No,
no,
no.
Orions are green.
Yeah.
Um,
I will think of it in a minute. Anyway,
I'll find it.
yeah. Shran. But they have there's a subspecies that's like a light blue or white, that also have the antenna, and they can't see because they live inside glaciers, so they're always in darkness. But because they have the antenna, they can see everything. Andorian.
Andorian, thank you.
I knew it would come to my head. It was just, there was a holding spot where that noun should have been. But yeah, he was great as the engineer. He sacrificed himself in an episode, and they got basically a professor of engineering to go in his stead. But in the end of season 2, they picked up Scotty, and Scotty's basically joined the crew, which is great. Awesome. But it centers around that Cage crew and how he's building it. How they've got incredible pilots and everything else. I love everybody in this, and I love the writing. The writing is strong. I'm just gushing over it. I'm totally fanboying out. Personally, to me, I think it's the best production they've had. Um, and again, we've got a third season, which is being produced and released now. Uh, Kurtzman had kind of felt that audiences had primarily responded to the relentless optimism of Pike, Spock, and Number One on Discovery, and said Strange New Worlds would explore how Pike remains an optimistic leader despite learning about his tragic future during the second season of Discovery. So those of you who are not in the know, Christopher Pike meets with an accident that basically melts his face off and puts him in a wheelchair where he can only say yes and no with bleeps, because of the injuries he sustains. Pike went to Borath, a Klingon moon, where they have these things called time crystals, where basically it gives you a view into your future or past. And he grabbed a hold of one and saw what was going to happen to him. He got injured, didn't kill him. He got injured saving children, and he knows all of their names. He keeps track of them. He meets them, or one of them, which sets up kind of a crisis for him. But even though he knows that's going to happen, he still remains optimistic. And that's basically how that rolls. He's a great leader. Just love it. But they did decide they were going to do standalone episodes instead of serialization.
Mm-hmm.
There is a little bit of serialization. They do bring bad guys back and forth, but the episode's done at the end. Now, Hammer died. That is kind of serialized because he's no longer on the crew. But they will, bring back someone to replace him. But you could pick the series up just like old-fashioned Star Trek, at any episode and watch it, and it makes total sense. I would suggest doing the whole thing. They also wanted to get rid of some of the techno babble, because Pike doesn't like it. No, Pike is very clear spoken, and when he's around people who are not scientists, he makes them talk in plain language. And I've noticed in meetings and stuff, it's like, hey, why don't you tell them what it really is? And he likes to show people.
So the difference between Kirk and Pike. Kirk is very head through the door first.
Yeah.
He's very I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is here with Kirk, but I mean he's very active. He always goes in the forefront.
Yeah.
Pike does that as well, but Pike is very cowboyish.
Yeah.
He's very gung ho, his whole punch it. He's just a cool guy.
Yeah. He's really cool. And Kirk really isn't. I mean, a lot of people are like, well, Kirk was never cool.
No.
Kirk got the girl.
Right.
Because he's good.
Right.
He's good at what he does. But he also will never have a successful relationship because he ain't married to a woman. He's married to the Enterprise.
Right.
Which is why he got made fun of at Starfleet Academy for being book sacks. He always had books in front of him because he's always trying to figure out the best way to get it done. And Kirk is a workaholic.
Mm-hmm.
Pike ain't. Pike thinks, no, it is time for us to sit down and have a meal together and talk about something that isn't work. And you see it over and over and over in the show. And I think that's a brilliant idea, them setting that up. Because, again, Kirk's all about getting the work done. Pike's like, no, we're explorers, man. We need to explore ourselves as much as everything else.
Right.
You even see it in conversations between Pike and Kirk. Because Kirk is the second in command on the Farragut, and they have to get involved in a couple of scrapes a couple of times. Brilliant. God, I love it. I love the Kirk guy. I love him so much because it's like, oh my God, oh Jesus fucking Christ, this guy's so dialed in. Uh, Again, I'm gushing, but I think this is the best of the modern Trek. I like this better than Picard, and I love Picard. I love Discovery. I like this better than the Lower Decks, and I love Lower Decks. This show has crossed over with Lower Decks, and it was a ridiculous episode, but that was part of it. They've got to have the ridiculous as well as the serious
Hmm.
because it's episodic, and that's what you need. And this feels like this this feels like more of a reboot of the Star Trek being on television than Discovery did to me. And it's not that I do, again, not that I don't like Discovery, but I saw what Discovery was trying to do. I think that if they would have done this instead, we'd have more series on right now. Discovery's done, Lower Decks is done, Picard is done. We had a movie for Section 31, which we will talk about. They set it up to have another movie. I think that's what they're going to do, is like little movies uh, instead of an actual series, which I'm fine with. It was brilliant. I want to watch it. I watched it. I've seen it like 3 times. Um, but I'm hopeful that this idea will continue. You know what I mean? I'd like to see him do something else. I would love to see. I'd love to see another DS9 series. About Bajor and all that other stuff. It's a darker tone. I get that. It's going to be serialized, but I think they can do it. My overall impression of this series is that it's just freaking great,
Yeah, from
and I
everything
cannot
I've
recommend
watched
it.
so far, it's a very good
Yeah,
show. I need to watch the new season because you're right. It came out 2025, so I don't
yeah.
know when specifically release
Oh, I
comes
think
out.
like in the last, well, at the time of this recording, it's probably already all out. But I think it's just the last couple of weeks we had an episode. So
Okay.
yeah, so I think we may have two now. But I like to watch them and ruminate on them, and then I'll watch another one and ruminate on that, on how good it is, and they're paying service to the fans,
Hmm.
but it's not just fan service, because you got, again, a lot of people hate it. Star Trek Enterprise paid no fan service, and that's why a lot of people hate it. I
Yeah,
don't. I
me,
like the series in general.
me.
I think it had some trouble. Yes, you. I think it had some trouble. But then you get other series like Lower Decks. Lower Decks is all about fan service. And that's great. It's fun. It's enjoyable. But it's not necessarily Star Trek. You know what I mean? So I think that this show meets that middle ground better, in my humble opinion. As someone who's been watching Star Trek his entire life.
Right.
Well, not, I can remember watching it when I was 4, so every day. I watch it to go to sleep too. Doesn't matter what. It's all Star Trek. It's all the Star Trek. Good, bad, and different. But yeah, that's about it for Strange New Worlds, other than get out, check it out. In our YouTube playlist, I've put in a bunch of scenes. There's not full episodes, but you can go out and check those out on Paramount.
Paramount.
Yeah, there is like a $5 service, like $5 a month. You get commercials, but they're not that bad. A couple commercials in it. It's not gonna kill you, and it's well worth it because you get all of the Star Trek, all of it, all the series, all the new stuff, plus some other cool stuff.
Awesome. Appreciate your work on that for
No, thanks, sir.
another round of Star Trek. The Star Trek.
The Star Trek
With that, we'll step over to the murdery side of the house.
murder.
Today I got my information off Murderpedia, All That's Interesting, Wikipedia, and Medium, and this is the story of Charlie Brandt.
Charlie Brandt.
So Charlie Brandt was really kind of a very unassuming person. He's someone you'd walk past and not give a second thought. He was a married man. He had a home. He had a stable job. But as you look closer into his history, it revealed a man with a very dark history of violence and seemingly was living a double life.
Huh.
In 2004, things came to a head when that darkness within finally exploded and there were devastating consequences.
Uh-oh.
So, Carl Eric Charlie Brandt's life began on February 23rd, 1957. He was the second oldest of German immigrant parents. Due to his father Herbert's job, the family moved frequently during Charlie's childhood, finally settling in Fort Wayne, Indiana in 1968. His father worked as a laborer for a division of International Harvester, eventually working his way up to draftsman and project engineer. The family moved frequently, and as a result, Brandt and his older sister Angela attended several different schools. They also spent time in Florida, frequently vacationing there when Charlie was young. And although Charlie was described as a good student, he was very shy and withdrawn and took a lot of time to adjust to new environments and often spent time alone. Well, on January 3rd, 1971, which was a Sunday evening, the Brandt family had just settled in for the night after watching their favorite TV show, The FBI, on their new color TV.
Probably about 22 inches.
The house was peaceful. Charlie's mother was pregnant. Her name was Ilse. Uh, Ilse. Ilse?
Ilse. Yeah,
Ilse.
Ilse.
Ilse. Okay.
Ilse. Or
Um,
Ilsa.
I'm going to go with Ilse. That's easier for me. She was preparing her bath while Herbert shaved in the bathroom. Charlie's older sister Angela lay in a bed upstairs reading a book. Suddenly, Angela heard several loud pops. There were screams and her father yelling, "Charlie, don't," and her mother's desperate cries, "Angela, call the police." The noise grew louder and more frantic as Angela realized something was wrong. Unknown to her at the time, Charlie had taken a loaded handgun from his father's drawer and entered his parents' bedroom, and without hesitation, Charlie shot both of his parents. Herbert was struck in the back, but he would survive. Ilse, however, was not as fortunate. Charlie shot her repeatedly, killing her. And to add to the tragedy, she had been 8 months pregnant at the time. Angela scrambled to understand what was happening, and Charlie suddenly appeared in her bedroom door with a gun in his hand. He aimed the weapon at his sister and pulled the trigger, but the gun didn't fire. Angela then ensued in a struggle with Charlie as she tried to fight off her younger brother's attempts to strangle her. But during this chaos, Angela said she saw something frightening in Charlie's eyes. He had a glazed, vacant look as if he were in a trance. And then suddenly, as soon as it began, Charlie seemed to snap out of it. He stopped what he was doing and muttered, "What am I doing?" before retreating from Angela's room. Angela managed to calm Charlie down by promising him that she would help him figure out what to do. She eventually convinced Charlie to go upstairs and retrieve blankets for their infant sisters who were unharmed before fleeing the house and seeking help from neighbors. Angela ran from the house, screaming in her bloody, torn nightgown. She ran through the snow to her neighbor's home and pounded on the front door, which startled then 16-year-old Sandy Radcliffe. But by the time Sandy came to the door, Angela had already headed to another house, and instead, a bewildered Charlie was standing outside. She would later say, quote, "There was just a knock knock, and I opened the door, and he said, 'Sandy, I just shot my mom and dad.'" After the shooting, Charlie told Angela that he couldn't remember what he had done. Angela described her brother as being in a trance-like state, which had broken during their struggle. When he was interviewed by police, Charlie attributed the shooting to, quote, "a combination of things related to school," stating that everything just sort of snapped in my mind. I felt like I never felt before. Charlie also alluded to an incident that took place a few days before the shooting near the end of his family's annual Christmas vacation in Florida, in which Herbert shot and killed their dog while the two were hunting. So the police arrived. Herbert was rushed to the hospital, and Charlie was taken into custody. Um, Despite despite how tragic and grave this was, Charlie was too young to be tried for murder under Indiana state law, and a grand jury determined that Charlie was not criminally responsible for his actions, but cautioned he might repeat them if he did not receive psychiatric treatment. So he was committed to a psychiatric facility for a year. Evaluations revealed no definitive diagnosis or clear explanation for his behavior. Charlie Brandt spent a year under psychiatric evaluation, and in 1972, Charlie was released back to his father's care. Herbert, though, may have been in some denial or a desire to shield his family from scrutiny, decided to bury the incident, and the family relocated to Florida, sealing the records and swearing never to speak of that night again. Angela, though, who barely survived the attack, carried the weight of that night in silence for decades. For the rest of
I
the
bet she
world,
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
for the rest of the world, Charlie Brandt appeared to move on like nothing had ever happened. So the Brandts moved to Ormond Beach, Florida. Um, just a year later, Charlie's father, who had then remarried, and his two younger sisters returned to Indiana, but Charlie and Angela remained in Florida in the care of their grandparents. Um, After all these traumatic events, Charlie Brandt managed to steer his life back into what seemed like a normal past. Charlie pursued his education with determination, and by the mid 70s, he had earned a degree in electronics, which was a field that fascinated him and promised a promising career. His technical skills led him to a position as a radar technician at Ford Aerospace in Astor, Florida, starting in the early 1980s.
Oh, nice.
The job provided him with stability and a sense of purpose, allowing him to build a life that had appeared both successful and respectful to those around him. In 1986, Charlie took another significant step toward normalcy by marrying Teresa Terry Helfrich. Um, Oddly, none of Charlie's relatives were invited to the wedding.
I don't think it's that odd.
Friends and acquaintances describe them as a loving and inseparable couple, often seen enjoying activities like fishing and boating near their home.
Yeah.
Their marriage, to all outside appearances, seemed to be the epitome of domestic bliss, with no hint of all that darkness that Charlie harbored.
Fort Ormond
Um,
Beach. Well, if he's a radar tech, he's probably down near the coast.
Most likely,
I'll say, redneck Florida. Yeah, there are a lot of. It's why my family moved to Louisiana is so they could go fishing every day.
right. The couple eventually settled into a beach house on Big Key Pine in 1989. So, what happened on that January night in 71 remained buried deep. It
Yes.
was hidden from everyone except his immediate family.
Yep.
Carrie was unaware of Charlie's violent past. She trusted him implicitly and believed he was a good man.
Yeah. He
Um,
given no indication that he wasn't.
well, no, this created a facade of normalcy that allowed Charlie to blend seamlessly into society.
Hmm.
Again, I said he was someone you just pass by without a second look. Um, However, Charlie started becoming increasingly restless. Those who knew him noted his obsessive interest in anatomy and crime. He often spent hours reading medical books and crime-related materials, which were topics that seemed a little unusual for someone in his profession. At least that's what they were saying. I don't think that anybody that knows me thinks I spent a lot of time researching true crime and murder, but hey, I
I was
do.
about to say he ain't the only one there, homie.
But it seemed unusual for
Yeah.
to some people. His home was filled with surgery-themed books, posters, and newspaper clippings that hinted at a fascination with the macabre. Friends occasionally found him lost in thought, staring blankly at anatomy diagrams or discussing details of criminal cases with an unsettling intensity.
Hmm.
Again, I can't, I can't say that I haven't done the same.
Oh my
Um,
God. Well, okay, listeners, he researched the shit out of this stuff.
I do
If I
research
was
the shit
looking
out
at
of
his
this stuff.
internet history, I'd think this guy's a serial killer.
Well, and investigators did later discover his online activity, and more disturbing things did start popping up. These are things I would not look at. His internet history showed regular searches for autopsy photos and snuff films depicting violence against women. I think that's kind of a key there. I don't research that stuff. I do see,
No.
read news articles that might be about this stuff, but I'm not looking for
Yes.
snuff films like that.
Police reports, things like that.
Some people speculate, though, that his obsession with medical and crime-related materials may have been a way for him to process what happened when he was a teenager. Um,
That makes sense.
but it really only kind of seemed to fuel his passions. He hid these from Terry. She was completely unaware of her husband's interests, none. So that's another key point. My wife knows I study this shit.
Yeah, she walked by and go, ooh, gross.
Well, in September 2004, Hurricane Ivan was approaching Florida, and thousands were forced to evacuate. Among them were Charlie and his wife, Terry, who fled their
Yes.
Big Pine Key home and sought refuge in Orlando with their niece, Michelle Jones, who had invited the couple to stay with her.
Yeah.
Michelle was 37 years old, and she was a vibrant, well-loved woman. She was as a successful executive at the Golf Channel in Orlando. And Michelle was known for her close bond with her extended family, which prompted her to welcome Charlie and Terry into her home. During the stay, Michelle stayed in frequent contact with her mother and several friends. And on September 30th, 2004, Michelle had invited a friend to her home, but later called and asked her not to come over, supposedly due to a drunken argument between Charlie and Terry.
Mhm.
2 days later, on September 15th, when Michelle could not be reached by phone, Mary Lou grew concerned and asked Michelle's friend, Debbie Knight, to go to the house and check on her. When Debbie arrived, the front door was locked and there was no answer, so she made her way to the garage. And what she discovered there was Charlie Brandt's decomposing corpse hanging from the rafters, his lifeless body hung from a noose fashioned from bed sheets.
Mhm.
Clear that he had committed suicide, so she called the police. Once the police reached the scene, they made their way in, they forced their way inside the home, and they found the lifeless bodies of Terry and Michelle. Terry had been stabbed several times in the chest. Michelle's body bore even more evidence of Charlie's deeply disturbed psyche. She had been decapitated, and her organs, including her heart, had been meticulously removed. Her head was placed next to her body, and the weapons used, a set of kitchen knives, were left behind. Since all three bodies were locked inside the house and investigators concluded there was no indication of any struggle or fight, they concluded that Charlie killed his wife and niece before taking his own life.
Hmm.
These murders shook those who only knew Charlie's public persona. Again, he was quiet,
Wait, okay, so
reserved, and
the
devoted.
the niece is her
Michelle
niece, not
Jones.
okay, yeah, she's
Correct.
not her niece, not his. Okay. I
Correct.
thought so, but I just wanted to make that clear in my mind. Sorry.
Correct.
Thank you.
Again, Charlie was described as quiet, reserved, and devoted to his wife.
Yeah.
So after these shocking murders, investigators delved into Charlie Brandt's life, bringing into focus the disturbing evidence that painted a picture of a man leading a double life.
Hmm.
The apparent suddenness of the brutal killings pushed authorities to examine whether Charlie may have been involved in other violent unsolved crimes. Authorities searched his home in Big Pine Key and uncovered a disturbing collection of anatomy books, surgical-themed posters, crime-related literature, and extensive history of internet searches related to necrophilia and violence against women. I do not study necrophilia.
No,
Um,
no, no, you do not.
he also had an odd fixation with Victoria's Secret's catalog,
Hmm.
which really kind of became more disturbing when they learned that Charlie always referred to his niece Michelle as Victoria's Secret.
Oh.
His fixation with Michelle came under scrutiny. Some speculated he had harbored a secret infatuation with her, and this was evidenced by his frequent visits to her home and a reported possessiveness.
Mhm.
Possessiveness. This just began forming a disturbing puzzle that suggested Michelle's murder may have been as much about obsession as it was violence.
Oh
And
no.
the meticulous nature of Charlie's crimes and his fascination with anatomy led authorities to believe these murders might not have been his only. So investigators began looking into other unsolved cases across Florida and beyond. They were looking for victims who had been found decapitated or with similar signs of mutilation to be scrutinized. However, a lack of direct physical evidence made it difficult to definitively link Brandt to these cases. And the FBI also analyzed patterns of unsolved murders in the area, considering the possibility that Brandt could have been a serial killer whose crimes spanned decades. One of the most chilling revelations from the investigation was the connection between Charlie Brandt and the unsolved 1989 murder of Sherry Parisio. Sherry was a 38-year-old woman who was killed near Big Pine Key, just a short distance from the Brandt's home. Her murder bore striking similarities to Michelle's, as she had been brutally stabbed and mutilated, and her heart was removed. Her throat had been slashed, and her head had been nearly severed. And at the time of Sherry's murder, no concrete evidence tied Charlie Brandt to the crime. However, after his death and the discovery of his dark proclivities, investigators were confident he was responsible for Sherry's death. Witnesses reported seeing a man matching Charlie's description near the crime scene the night of the murder. Additionally, Terry, his wife, had reportedly suspected Charlie's involvement, noting he had returned home that evening with blood on his shirt. When she questioned him, Charlie dismissed it as blood from filleting fish. And despite these suspicions, the case went cold until 2004, when the similarities between Sherry's murder and the Orlando killings prompted investigators to re-examine the evidence. In 2006, authorities officially closed the case, naming Brandt as the perpetrator. Brandt has also been named a person of interest in a 1978 murder of 12-year-old Carol Sullivan, who was abducted from a school bus stop in Volusia County. Her post-mortem injuries bore similarities to Brandt's other killings. Her skull was found in a bucket, leading authorities to presume she was murdered and decapitated. Brandt at the time was 21 and lived in the same county at the time, but he could not be tied to the crime in any other way.
Hmm.
In 1988, Lisa Saunders was beaten, stabbed, and dragged from her car in Big Pine Key in December of '88. Her heart was missing when she was found, but it's unclear if it was extracted by an attacker or eaten by vultures. He's also suspected in the 1995 slaying of Darlene Toller, whose body had also been missing the head and heart. She was wrapped in plastic and blankets and discovered dumped in a grassy area near a highway. Charlie Brandt used the same highway regularly, and he kept a mileage record of his travels, which shows an entry for 100 miles on the day of her murder, roughly the driving distance between Big Pine Key and the area of Miami where Toller's body was found. Despite a thorough review of the cold cases, investigators struggled to conclusively tie Charlie Brandt to the other murders beyond Sherry Parishio's. There was a lack of DNA evidence. The passage of time presented significant obstacles. However, the precision and brutality of his confirmed crimes suggested he was capable of far more than initially known. The revelations following Brandt's suicide have greatly disturbed and angered the families of both Terry and Michelle. The fact that they were deliberately kept in the dark about Charlie's violent past has left them feeling betrayed, and they hold particular contempt for Charlie's father, Herbert, who, due to shame or not wanting to tarnish the family name, withheld this vital information that might have prevented the tragedies that unfolded.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, Charlie Brandt's case has left a lasting impact, igniting discussions about the importance of recognizing warning signs of violent behavior, even in seemingly normal individuals. It makes clear the need for transparency within families and highlights the potential danger of suppressing traumatic events. Um,
Uh-huh.
his story has become a cautionary tale for law enforcement and mental health professionals about the hidden depths of individuals who may appear otherwise normal. Charlie Brandt most likely was always a serial killer, but his other crimes just never came to light. There are currently 26 unsolved slayings in Florida, each occurring since Charlie Brandt moved to Florida in 1973, and each with some similarities to crimes investigators are certain Brandt did commit.
Hmm.
So this is an odd one. There was really no clear-cut evidence as to what flipped his switch. Um, police
What,
don't.
what?
There's no clear-cut evidence what flipped
I
his
think I lost
switch.
you. Okay.
No, you didn't lose me. I think I lost you.
Okay.
Um, so what I was saying before I lost you, this one was an odd one to me. There was no clear-cut evidence as to what flipped his switch.
Yeah.
Um,
What turned him around?
well, and police didn't know what to make of the killer. Um, um, it, police did not know what to make of this killer.
Yeah.
Um,
Was there any sign of head trauma?
I didn't see any. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There was no clear-cut evidence. I didn't see head trauma. I didn't see abuse. None of
Yeah.
that were reported.
Well, because when you're saying it like with the gun originally in the 72, it's like a switch got flipped, and I'm thinking,
Right,
did he hit his head?
right. Something somewhere flipped because he went into that trance-like state. The Indiana courts ordered Charlie to undergo three separate psychological evaluations. One of them was psychiatrist Ronald Pantsner. He
Hmm.
agreed with two of his colleagues that Charlie was somewhat of a mystery. He said, quote, basically, I was looking for mental illness, and he wasn't showing the signs and symptoms of serious mental illness, which I
Yeah.
thought was what the court wanted to know. This kid did well in school. He didn't get in any trouble. He loved his family, he said. And the family said that he was a loving kid, so there wasn't anything to diagnose. To the lay person, this doesn't make sense. The guy killed his mother. She's pregnant, shot his father. Why doesn't he have a mental illness? But he
Yeah.
doesn't have a diagnosable mental illness. We found no psychosis, no distorted thinking that would basically be a reason for this crime to be done.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at him in you look at him in 72. I get it; they don't have the diagnostics at that point. The the killer hunters in the FBI hadn't started doing their profiling yet.
No, but we still
But by
have
the
some
time he
because,
commits this crime, yes, those guys are up and active and running.
yeah, but a lot of these serial killers, we had evidence why they turned where they did. Pantsner was asked why Charlie turned violent, and his only quote was, "We don't know."
You know.
Um, there was some demon inside of Charlie.
Hmm.
Something turned him. This is such a weird one that I'm glad I came across because it was so
Yeah.
weird. Just that there's nothing in the history, and maybe it's because they buried it. There are sealed records. I'm wondering if they've unsealed them now or if they can't. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Um, I don't think I've ever covered a serial killer where there was just nothing,
Yeah.
nothing that
It's not
took a
based on
seal.
greed. It's not based on it
Well,
being
that
abused.
no,
Head
no,
trauma. We had a couple where it was just head trauma that they did
correct,
it.
correct. Um, so there was the killing of of his dog accidentally on a hunting trip.
Yeah.
Could that have been the one thing that caused all of this? Something.
Maybe the
It's
1972 thing, but
maybe
not the rest of this.
this is one that it's awful that he didn't live to get into custody because he needed to be studied more,
Yes. Yes. Put
way
him,
more.
yeah. Yeah. We need to
Um,
know why that dude flipped. And if there's a reason for it, we need to be looking out for that. You know what I mean?
yeah. So this one's gonna be weird for I guess a mystery forever. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a really weird one. It fascinated me. Again, I study all this stuff too. I
Hmm.
do. I have in my bathroom here in my office, I have two books sitting on my shelf. One of them is conspiracies, and the other is the big book of serial killers. I,
Hmm.
I do understand if somebody looks at my browsing history or looks at some of the books I have, they might think, okay, there's something odd here. Maybe we should watch this person.
Hmm.
But there's not.
Yes.
There's not. I'm not turning into a serial killer, nor am I studying to become one. I am fascinated by the psychology behind this.
Yes.
The same reason I study cults.
Hmm.
I'm fascinated with the psychology behind them that gets people into these cults. It's the exact reason that I want to go to that Church of Scientology that's down the road from me. I want to go in because I'm just curious. I ain't going to join. I promise you, I ain't going to join. I
But
am
you
not.
would like to hear their spiel.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
am
take
not a.
out notes and start writing them down.
I
Hmm.
am not a
Okay. Hmm.
target for a cult. They're not going to get me. I'm not a target for a cult. I don't need to have a need to belong to somebody or something
No,
or
but you
people.
definitely want to hear their spiel,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Matter of
Oh
fact,
yeah. Oh yeah. Check it off that. Oh yeah. 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 Okay. All right. Thanks.
when y'all come down, we're gonna go to dinner at Stefano's and I'll point out the Scientology church next door.
Nice.
Because it took me by surprise the first time I saw it. I went, "There's a
They got
church of
they got
Scientology there."
Stefano's got the gluten free. Wait. No. I'm getting their pasta. Yeah, because I saw that eggplant. It looked delicious. I'm getting
Sure,
that. Yeah,
sure,
looks good.
whatever.
Okay,
Funnels is good. They're good.
nice.
So anyway, I don't want our fans out there and our listeners to think that I am on my path to serial killer just because I study this stuff too. I'm not. The psychology behind it, this just fascinates me to no end, and that's where my interest is on it. I know, like I said, I know it's very dark. I know it's very twisted, and that's the reason that I can't continually study these. I have to do
No, yeah,
my research for my 3 episodes because those of you who have listened to us long enough know we record 3 episodes in a
hmm
given week. We record three,
sometimes two,
sometimes
sometimes
two.
two. Yeah.
But we generally at any one time we're recording three back to back.
hmm
And that's the max I can keep in my head. I
hmm
can't keep more than that because it's just sometimes too dark
Yeah.
even for me. And I
And since I'm exploring the light, I got episodes written out 20 episodes ahead. And then it's like, hey, we need to do this one. Oh, okay. And I'll go ahead and renumber the one that I've got to drop another one in.
yeah, yeah,
I just put it toward the end because it's like I know I'm going to cover this eventually. And I've got probably 20 more I need to sit down and make notes on. But I'm like, man, we got plenty right now.
awesome. Well, that's the story of Charlie Brandt. I appreciate you sitting through with me on that one.
Anytime, brother.
Um, That'll take us to the end of another recording week. As always, you can find more information about us on nerdyermurdery.com. That's our hub for everything we talk about. We have links for this episode plus pictures from the episode. You'll also find the link to our YouTube page, which so often updates.
Yes, and in this episode, I could not get full episodes, but I did get a bunch of clip shows that we've got and openings and things like that. So you can kind of get a feel for Strange New Worlds and some really, really pretty shots and things.
Awesome. Appreciate all the work you do on that.
Sure. Thanks.
You can also find the link to our merchandise page, or if you wish to show off your Nerdery Murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing something from there. That, along with our patrons, you can find the link to our patron on our page, but our merchandise and our patrons do help with the costs that are associated with this show. It costs to upload our show, to keep our storage, to keep everything on the air, and it is not free, but we do appreciate each and every one of you for helping us with our cause.
Please and thank you.
Don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us, helps others find our content that may be looking for the information we discuss. And last but not least, Chuck, you can go to sleep now.
Go to sleep, Jeff.
With that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with your murdering.
Cue the music.